So one of the things I like to ask everyone, and I must, at full disclosure, I did send through my questions to Kris earlier on, is that, it's really good to kind of share knowledge and experience and that kind of thing. What would you say are like the top 3 things that a lot of kind of business owners get wrong when they set up?
Well, we've already discussed. I think cash and how it flows into the business is the biggest thing. So what people need to do for cash flow is to have good payment terms. So that's the biggest thing that people need to look at, payment terms, and having some customers won't want to pay a deposit. So if they don't want to pay a deposit, then you need to have some other way of generating money for them. So I work with a financial advisor who them a little amount. They keep a hold of the money, but it's in our best interest that he's get a hold of it until the job's done, and then I get it. At least we're both financially secure. So that's the biggest thing is moving money around. Otherwise, you can buy a lift and it could be 20, 30, 40, 50,000 pounds. It's a big outlay, and they're not going to give somebody who's set up for 3 months that sort of money. So that's I think that's the top one that people would need to do in my sort of industry.
Because do you mind if we kind of riff off this a little bit? Because actually, in a former job, I was brought in as MD to help take the company forward, and when I was kind of looking at everything the company had, and I do talk about this in the book as well, but it's almost where one of the things that they were quite fortunate with, they had a high cash position, just because it was a 40-year-old business, very profitable for a long time. And what I kind of realized is actually, if you're a machine shop or a lift engineer or whatever, depending on the assets and stuff that you've got in the bank, which could be cash, it could be a warehouse, it could be whatever, just the ability to offer the same product, arguably it could even be more expensive, but you can offer it on 90 or 100-day payment terms because you can afford to, could make your business absolutely take off. And in the long term, it won't actually cost you anything other than the cost of capital that you could spend elsewhere. But it's these kind of things that the more you properly understand all the nuances of even like the challenge that your customers face, it might be that they're really cash strapped. So actually, if you can do various different things and makes their life easier, you could be the go-to person versus your competitors that are like, no, 30 days, that's it. And it's, people often, they don't always think through everything they could deploy and use to make their business better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so one of them things was, it was a catch-22. So I couldn't work with certain companies because they didn't want to pay a deposit, but I couldn't trust them to pay us on time. And then the bigger companies who want us to do the work for them, but I didn't have the overhead. So actually, it was talked about in the North Tyneside Business Forum. I went and told them that one of the tenders was just turning away small companies, and they changed the terms and conditions of the tender so that small companies could apply, because they were asking for like £5 million turnover, where you're not going to have a £5 million turnover, but you can still do the job.
You get that quite a lot in oil and gas, where if you try and bid jobs which are too big relative to your size, excuse me, the client sees it as being too risky, because it's all of the cash flow and the things that come off it as well. So it's trying to find the common sense approach that works, for different environments.
There's a good way around that. So I found out that with most manufacturers of a product, if they're over a certain size, your parent company guarantee. So you pay them a small deposit. So I bought a lift for £40,000. It was £325 for a parent company guarantee. The customer transfers the money direct to them. Product is owned by the customer. The contract's between the customer and the factory. But when it gets delivered, then I fit it and then they pay me. And that was the way I did a couple of jobs.